There has been plenty of positive talk around the Indian football team in recent times, and that's understandable given that under national coach Igor Stimac, there has been plenty of progress when it comes to not only a discernible and solid style of play, but also a clear improvement in results wherein you're able to compete against and even beat teams that are ranked higher than you in the FIFA rankings. However, there has also sometimes been a talk that maybe, just maybe, the Indian Football Administration and along with, of course, the central government around whom these rules revolve should actually talk about maybe getting players who are of Indian origin or overseas citizens of India allowed to play for the Indian national team. Now, obviously, under current regulations, that is not allowed at all. In fact, current regulations state that if you are an overseas person or a person of Indian origin, then you have to give up your other passport because dual citizenship is not allowed under the Indians, laws as of now. You're not allowed to be a dual citizen. You're either an Indian citizen or you are a citizen of the other country in which you are residing, whether by birth or whether whom you've obtained natural citizenship from. So, this has been a talking point in recent times, and it does seem like at long last the AIFF might actually be trying to do something to try and change the stance of the central government in this regard. So, first off, the AIFF have in fact put in place a task force of sorts for looking at or getting in data for players of Indian origin or PIOs or OCI players who are of course overseas citizens of India. Now, obviously, given the fact that India has had a lot of people move out of the country and immigrate into other nations, there are plenty of players of Indian origin who are actually playing at a reasonably high level in European leagues or even leagues elsewhere in the Americas, but unfortunately as of now they are not eligible to play for the team. So, this task force will have to be submitting a report compiling data of a variety of players who come under this category, and January 31st 2024 is in fact the deadline date of that particular report which has to be suggested. And of course, the aim here is very simple. It is to ensure that you have a bigger talent pool for the Indian national team, ensure that you can bring in a lot more players, because right now obviously the domestic system in India is very much a work in progress. Even though it has seen improvement in recent times, there's still plenty of things that can be worked on before you can say that India have a massive football talent pool, and that, truth be told, isn't the case. So, this one is in one way let's say a shortcut of sorts that you can be using, and an effective shortcut, because according to FIFA regulations it is allowed. If a player holds dual citizenship, he can pick and choose which country it is that he chooses to play for. In fact, in FIFA or according to FIFA regulations, the rules are such that if you have even ancestry dating on one side from your parents, then you can be representing that country of origin, which has led to a lot of players actually changing their national allegiances before they get capped. So, this is something that the Indian administration is looking at, and of course the President Kalyan Chaubey did confirm as much in the release that talked about this task force. In fact, he said one thing. He said that if we want to look into various ways of allowing such players to represent the Indian football teams, we need comprehensive data to back up our arguments. Comprehensive data, that is the name of the game, and that is what they need to back up their arguments. And what he's saying very clearly, if he's talking about our arguments, then it's very clear that he too is a fan of allowing players of Indian origin and overseas card holders or overseas citizens of India to actually play for the Indian football team. That's very, very clear. In fact, he makes it further clear where he says that we'll form a comprehensive database on OCI and PIO footballers around the world, then look for the best ways to use such players. What we're going to do is form comprehensive databases on all these players and then look for what we think is the best way to actually integrate such players. So, quite clearly the plan is there to ensure that these players are first scouted, you get plenty of data on them, and then you figure out a way. So, that is in fact it's a good thing, you can argue, and in fact it does harken back to an incident that happened a few months prior, wherein which involved, funnily enough, of all people, former England international Rio Ferdinand, as well as the current AIFF General Secretary Shaji Prabhakaran, and one rather promising young player who's currently playing in Scotland, if I'm not wrong, and his name is Yan Dhanda. He's someone of Indian origin, and this was the Twitter exchange that came about. Rio Ferdinand took to Twitter and he co-tweeted a video which was actually showing off some skill moves as well from Yan, and he simply said that love watching this, and surely, so he's tagged the Indian football He's tagged the Indian football Twitter handle, as well as not just head coach Igor Stimac, but also Kalyan Chaubey and Shaji Prabhakaran, making the intention pretty clear so far. Well, Shaji Prabhakaran himself responded saying, "Dear Rio, thank you. It would be our pleasure to welcome Yan to the Indian national team if he is willing to apply for an Indian passport by moving to India. His challenge would be to relinquish his current nationality, but it will be worth it as he can quickly emerge as a hero of 1.4 billion. So once again, the status quo here is clear. You cannot be holding another passport. You have to be giving up that passport. And interestingly, Yan Dhanda actually saw this entire exchange and replied. He said that giving up my passport means I can't play professionally in the UK and some European clubs due to India's FIFA ranking. Permitting OCI cards similar to other countries will allow me to represent the Indian football team as a dual national. I hope this can happen soon." Whether or not he gets his wish, that's something we don't quite know yet. But what we do know is that the main sticking point when you're talking about allowing OCIs or allowing OCI cards, as well as for players of Indian origin to be turning out for the national team, would be to convince the central government to allow dual citizenship. That is the main stumbling point, because at this point, as I mentioned before, dual citizenship isn't really allowed. It's in fact, you either hold an Indian passport or you hold the passport of the other nation in which you are residing in or you have citizenship of. That is why a Yan Dhanda couldn't actually turn out for India, because, well, if he gives up his UK or British citizenship, then he will be coming to India, but India's low FIFA ranking means that he will not be able to actually get work permits to play in Europe. A similar thing has happened in the past with Sunil Chhetri, when he could have signed for then Premier League club QPR or Queen's Park Rangers, but he ended up being refused a work permit due to India's low FIFA rankings, and the regulations in the UK as well as Europe didn't permit for a player from such a low ranked team to be coming and playing in the nation. That is why a Yan Dhanda doesn't want to give up his passport and take up only Indian citizenship, and that's why many others will also in fact not want to go this route. But assuming the AIFF can let's say ensure that the Indian government relaxes its mandate a little bit, then this might just be a reality in the not so distant future. Of course, whether or not it happens is something we'll only know with time. In fact, even the AIFF has set a deadline of early 2024, but it definitely is an exciting prospect. And in fact, you've seen it work out as well. The Morocco team that ended up making it to the semi-finals of the FIFA World Cup in 2022, a lot of their players were in fact players who were residing in other nations, but due to the fact that they allowed dual citizenship, and FIFA clearly has no problem with it, they were being able to they were called up for the Moroccan team, and you can see how that worked out for them. Maybe something good like that sort happens for the Indian football team as well. That's something that, as I said, time will tell. But what are your thoughts on this entire matter? Would you like to see players of Indian origin currently playing in other nations be allowed to represent India? You can let us know that in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell icon, leave us a comment, follow us on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Don't forget to download the AajTak app, and if you're already on the channel, go ahead and check out some other videos that we've done. But for now, from my side, it's goodbye.